Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to Marathon Wednesday. We take on the bigger catalogues. Been a busy day so far. It's Rob Walker's birthday today. That's gone up already. Started a little extra early today to get that up first. So, Molly Hatchet, Southern rock band, formed in Florida by Dave Hulbeck in Jacksonville, Florida, 1971. They become very popular in the late 70s and early to mid 80s. Released 14 albums, had lots of people in the band, and sadly all the founding members are no longer with us, but the name lives on. There's that thing where people say, oh, it's only a tribute band now, but there's people like John Galvin, who's been there since 84, Bobby Ingram since 87. So it's just a case of, that just because they're not all the originals. I mean, yes, they're not all the originals, but the music's still there, and they're still playing good music. In my books, they really haven't released a bad album. Even their 2 cover albums they've done are really good. I enjoy this band. It's just good old-fashioned rock for Southern style. So there's nothing wrong with this band. And what really got me into these are the covers. I think the covers are superb. They are really good. So let's have a look at these 14 albums done by Molly Hatchet. So I'll be first on to the others. There's 1 or 2 of them that I'm not overly keen on, and that's normally down to the production, as ever. So coming in at number 14 then, we have the 6th album from 1984, The Deed Is Done. And this is the first Molly Hatchet album with only 2 guitarists, after Steve Holland had been replaced by ex-Danny Joe Brown band keyboard player John Galvin, and the return of drummer Bruce Crump. Also was the band's last album for 21 years to feature long-time guitarist Dave Hulbeck. So people playing on this album are Danny Joe Brown on vocals, Dave Hulbeck on guitar, Dwayne Rowland on guitar, John Galvin on the keyboards, Riff West on the bass, Bruce Crump on the drums. Backing vocals are done by Jimmy Jameson, Tom DeLuca, Steve Bassett and Terry Manning. Saxophone is supplied by Jim Horn. So the first track on here is called Satisfied Man. It's a great vocal from Danny, but it's got the drums sound very 80s. Bruce is not, it's got restrictions. It's not too bad, I don't mind it. It's just okay. Backstabber, very progressive this is. On the word backstabber, it's used all the time, but it's not a bad track. It's pretty decent. Then we get She Does, very smooth and 80s, too 80s even for Southern rock. No. Then we got this oddment called Intro Piece. Yes, Stone Your Heart. I love the bass line on this, but it's just that Southern. It's not Southern rock, it's 80s plastic rock. Then we got Man on the Run. Probably one of the worst tracks Molly Hatchet recorded. It is so 1980s. Good Smoke and Whiskey. I love the song, but I just don't like the production on it. Heartbreak Radio. Probably the best track on this one. At least it sounds something. It's got some nice piano on it. I Ain't Got You. Nah, it's just plastic. Straight Shooter, good track. The drums though is a bit hollow. Sung for the Children. It's got some nice acoustic guitars. Yeah, even Molly Hatchet succumbed to 1980s production at the best. It's a shame because I've heard some of these tracks live again and they always sound better live. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of oh, I didn't put it down. I'll put the last one down. I'll give this a 4.5, I think. Okay then. Coming in at number 13 is the 14th. And as of 2022, it's the most recent, and it's called Regrinding the Axes. It's very similar to the Southern Rock Masters, which we will be talking about. There's been the order of the songs and some substitutes. So the band on this is Phil McCormack on lead and backing vocals, Bobby Ingram on guitars, Dave Hulbeck on guitars, John Galvin on the keyboards, Tim Lindsay on the bass, Sean Beamer on drums, Charlie Daniels does the vocals on Freebird. I'll just go through because I'm going to go through it. So there's Back to the Bone, which we'll talk about later, Mississippi Queen, and they do a version of another Southern rock great, Freebird, by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Not a bad version actually. I think it's a great vocal from Charlie Daniels. I can't knock this version, to be quite honest. It's still got that feel. Then they do Back in the USSR from the Beatles, and it's not a bad track either. Then we've got Sharp Dressed Man, The Boys Are Back in Town, Tumbling Dice, Dreams I'll Never See, Melissa, Wild Horses, Tequila Sunrise, and Yesterday. It's okay. Nothing special, but I'm going to still give it a RTO ranking of 5 out of 10 because they do play well on it. Okay then, coming in at number 12 is the 12th album released in 2008, and it's the Southern Rock Masters, which is the previous album with with a different running order. So it's the same band: Phil, Bobby, Dave, John, Tim, Sean, and Charlie doesn't appear on this one. So this one opens up with ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man. It's not bad, but it's not a patch on ZZ Top's, of course. Then we get Thin Lizzy's The Boys Are Back in Town. There's nothing wrong with this. It's quite good. Then we get Desperado, an Eagles track, and they do a very good version of it. But my favourite cover they've ever done is this brilliant track from George Thorogood and the Destroyers, Back to the Bone. I love this track. I love the original and I love this version. Absolutely killer. Best cover they ever did. Then we get Dreams I'll Never See from the Allman Brothers Band. It's not a bad version actually. Melissa from the Allman Brothers again. Good version of it. Mississippi Queen from Mountain. It's alright. Tequila Sunrise from Eagles. It's okay. Tumbling Dice from the Stones. Pretty good version. Then Wild Horses from the Stones. In some respects, Phil sings it's better than Mick. For a covers album, it's pretty good. The only criticism I've got of it, there's too many songs by one artist. There's too many Eagles. There's too many Stones. But I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, then coming in at number 11, we have the 10th album from 2000. And it's called Kingdom of XII. And on here we have got Phil McCormack on the lead vocals, Bobby Ingram on guitars, Brian Bassett now on guitars, John Galvin on the keyboards, Andy McKinney on bass, and Sean Shannon on drums. Additional people on here, we've got Russ Maxwell doing some guitars, Tim Donovan on keyboards, Charlie Daniels doing what he's good at, playing the fiddle, and Backing vocals by Rolf Kohler. First track on this one is called Heart of the USA. I like the start of this. It's more rock than southern rock, but it's absolutely great. Some great guitar work on this. It's a great vocal from Phil. Really strong track. Then we got Cornbread Mafia. Sounds like it's a song from the Bayou. Some nice slide guitar. I like that. There's nothing wrong with that one. One Last Ride. Love the guitar start. This is good old-fashioned southern rock. I like that track quite a lot. Then we get Why Don't You Take Me Home. Another good track. The piano on this is killer. Turn My Back On Yesterday. It's not too bad. Wouldn't say it's one of my favourite tracks on the album, but it's still good. Gypsy Trail, my favourite track on this. I love Charlie Daniels' violin on this. I mean, Charlie Daniels, of course, is famous for The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Some fine fiddle playing on that. White Lightning, good track. Reminds me of the UK's The Choir Boys, this does, with that sound and them guitars. Then they do Tumbling Dice again from the Stones. Then we get Angel in Dixie, more country rock than southern rock, but it's pretty good. Kickstart to Freedom. It's got some good guitar riffs on this one. I like that. Dreams of Life. It's okay. Then we get Edge of Sundown acoustic version. It's a track that was on one of Danny Joe Brown's albums, and it's not a bad version. I prefer Johnny Doe's original though. Even though at number 11 in the rankings, it's a damn good album. Some great tracks on here, but there are so many good albums in this catalogue. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Okay, coming in number 10 now. This is one of the people may go, ooh, why is it so low in the thing? And it's Beatin the Odds, the third album from 1980, and it's the first album with the new vocalist Jimmy Farrar, who replaced Danny Joe Brown. So it's Jimmy Farrar on the vocals, Dave Hulbeck on guitar, Steve Holland on guitar, Dwayne Rowland on guitar, Banner Thomas on the bass, Bruce Crump on the drums, and a keyboardist Jay Winding. So the first track is Beatin the Odds, classic from Molly Hatchet. Great vocal from Jimmy. I do like this track. Double Talker comes next. Some great guitar work. The one thing about this band, the guitars always sound. Another good vocal from Jimmy. The Rambler, not too bad, not particularly a favourite of mine. Sailor, a good song, got absolutely killer guitar solo on this. Then we got my favourite track, Dead and Gone. Good little rocker. Excellent track. Few and Far Between. Solid southern rock, wonderful. Then we get a cover of a Creedence Clearwater Revival song, and it's one of the deep cut tracks, and it's Penthouse Pauper. Really good cover. All their covers are good. I like that track. Get Her Back, solid track, nothing wrong with that one. Poison Pen, it's an okay track. A pretty solid start for Jimmy Farrar, but for some reason this album didn't hit the notes like on his other album, but it's still a good album. Some great playing on this. I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, then coming in at number 9, we have the 11th album, 2005, Warriors of the Rainbow Bridge, and this came out 2 months after the former Danny Joe Brown died. And Bobby Ingram invited Dave Hulbeck to come on this as well. So we have got Phil McCormack, Bobby Ingram, Dave Hulbeck, John Galvin, Tom Lindsay, Sean Beamer. Additionals on this one is Rick DeFalvo on keyboards. First track on this is called Son of the South. More mainstream rock, but it's good. It's really good. Moonlight Dancing on the Bayou, great track. Again, it's not very southern rock, it's just more rock, but it does rock. Excellent track. I'm Ready for You, great riffs in this. I mean, when you get two good guitarists, Bobby and Dave Holbeck playing, it's great, absolutely brilliant. Then we get Roguehouse Boogie, my favourite track, one of my favourite tracks, definitely top 10. I just love this. The drumming on this is solid. Time Keeps Slipping Away, very solid track, just good old-fashioned rock music here. Get the Game, some incredible riffs on this. Great vocal from Phil. Flames Are Burning, it's alright. It's not the best track on the album. Hell Has No Fury, really heavy sort of southern rock. Gone in 60 Seconds, don't mind this, it's a bit more boogie rock than southern rock, but it's pretty good. Behind Bedroom Door, just 12 bar boogie blues here, there's nothing wrong with that. No Stranger to Darkness, solid track. Rainbow Bridge, the last track, it's okay, but it's a couple of minutes too long. I think this is one of the heaviest albums that Molly Hatchet put out. It's just straightforward rock and there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay, coming in at number 8, we got the 7th album now, released in 1989. Lightning Strikes Twice. It's the first with Bobby Ingram, who replaced Dave Holbeck. So the band was Danny Joe Brown on vocals, Bobby Ingram on guitars, Dave Rowland on the guitars and slide, John Galvin on the keyboards, Riff West on the bass, Bruce Crump on the drums, and we've got backing singing from Amy Martin, Carol, Becca Rizzo, Randy Nichols, Sarah Moore. First track on here is called Take Miss Lucy Home. Great opening track, fantastic vocal from Danny. I love this track. There's brass on it, it really adds to it. Pretty good. Then we get There Goes the Neighborhood, absolutely brilliant track. Bobby Ingram and Dwayne, absolutely killer guitars on that. No Room on the Crew, not one of my favourites on this album, but I do love Danny's vocal on this. But the next track, Find Somebody New, is my favourite track on this one. I love the pianos, I just love the riffs. It's just good old fashioned rock, southern rock. The Big Payback, a little bit different, some nice keyboards on this. I can be watching you, some great blues on this. It's just boogie blues with a killer solo. Goodbye to Love, bit of a ballad, I quite like this. It's got some nice guitar work on it. Hide Your Heart, which is a Bonnie Tyler cover, certainly better than Bonnie Tyler's. You know me and Bonnie Tyler, I just don't like her singing, so one up here. That's it's not the best song, but it's certainly a better version. Then we get What's the Story, Old Glory, another great track, boogie southern rock feel, gets your feet going. Heart of My Soul, a little bit different again. I love the rolling drums from Bruce on this, pretty good. Great album, very consistent band, solid tracks. Yeah, you just put them on and let them go because they do sound great. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.8. Okay, then coming in at number 7, we get the 13th album now. This was released in 2010 and it's called Justice. So this is Phil McCormack, Bobby Ingram, Dave Holbeck on guitars, John Galvin, Tim Lindsay, Sean Beener, and the additional backing vocals are done by Tina Lux, Michael Borman, Anek Renner, Abigail Thompson. First track on this one is called Been to Heaven and Been to Hell. Typical Molly Hatchet track, great opening track, good old-fashioned boogie rock, just can't go wrong. Safe in My Skin, another really boogie track. There's some great riffs in this one, Phil singing great on it as well. Deep Water, I like everything about the cheesy keyboard. Why do we need an 80s sounding keyboard in 2010? I don't know. American Pride. Now the beginning of this reminds me of Poison's Skinny Bop. Yeah, but it's nothing like the track then. It's just that opening that's very similar. It's a good track. I'm Gonna Live Till I Die. A very long track. It's 8 minutes. It should be a bit short because it just doesn't go thing. Then we get Fly on Wings of Angels, Summer's Song. Starts off okay. It's a too long track. Just keep short, sharp, punchy tracks. As Heaven Is Forever, another good ballad. It's okay. Then we get Vengeance. The keyboard at the beginning is a bit naff, but the rest of the track's pretty good. In the Darkness and Night, good track. Justice, classic, off for me on this album, really good. Again, a pretty good album for a modern album. Just a good solid rock album. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Okay, coming in number 6. Go to the 5th album now, released in 1983. No Guts, No Glory. Excuse me. Original vocalist Danny Joe Brown returned for this recording. New bassist of Riff West, ex-White Witch, and drummer Barry Borden from Mother's Finest joined the band. So it's Danny Joe Brown on vocals, Dave Hulbeck on guitar, Steve Holland on guitars, Dwayne Rowland guitar, Riff West on bass, Barry Borden drums, and additional musicians on this. We have additional guitar from Drew Lombard, Scott Shelley again doing some additional, Jay Winding on keyboards, and John Galvin does some piano. So the first track in on this is What Does It Matter, a classic song from Molly Hatchet. Great vocal from Danny. Loved Barry's drums on this. It's really good. Ain't Even Close. The highlight of this is Stephen Wayne's guitar riffs, the interplay between them. Did I say Wayne? I should have said Dwayne. All three guitarists sound really good on this. There's lots of interplay on it. Then we got Sweet Dixie. Love the start of this, and rolling drums. Great guitar work as usual. Done one of my favourite tracks by this band. It's Fool of the Peacemakers. Absolute classic. I mean, it's a long track, but what helps this to be really good is the banjo in the middle of it. Absolutely terrific. Great song. What's It Gonna Take? Another good track. Solid. Kinda Love. Drumming's great. Great vocal from Danny. Under the Gun. It's okay. Don't mind that one. And On the Prowl is probably the weakest track on the album. Bit of a filler. Then Both Sides. This is quite gentle, and it's got some nice guitars, but the solo is pretty good. Once again, Molly Hatchet deliver a great album. Some great musicianship on this. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.3. Now we're moving into the top 5 now. And to me, these are definitely the go-to Molly Hatchets for me. So coming in at number 5, we go to 1998 for the 9th album, which is Silent Reign of Heroes. So the lineup on this one is Phil McCormack on the vocals and harmonica, Bobby Ingram on guitars as ever, Brian Bassett on guitars, John Galvin on the keyboards, Andy McKinney bass, And we've got a different drummer, Mac Crawford. Additional musicians, Tim Donovan does some additional keyboards and digital sampling. Backing vocals, Rolf Collar, Victoria Miles, Linda Fields, Pam Macbeth. First track on here is called Mississippi Moondog, a real southern bluesy rock track. Again, every opening track on a Molly Hatchet album is great. World of Trouble, I love Andy's bass line on this, Drive the Song Along, pretty cool track. Then the title track, Silent Reign of Heroes. It's a really long track, but it works because it goes in different stages. Some fine vocal from Phil, and it got lots of mood on that. Really good track. Miss Saturday Night, a really good track. It's got that real southern rock feel to it. One of the best on the album. Blue Thunder, very rocky. Great guitar solo on this. Absolutely dynamite. Just remember you're the only one. It's okay. It's a little bit weak, but it's still listenable. That's the only good thing about it. Then we have Junkyard Dog, one of my favourites on this. Good old fashioned southern rock. Head down and go. Dead and Gone, the redneck song. It's got that early day sound with a modern twist. Pretty good. Then we get my favourite on this one, which is Saddle Tramp. It's got some ghostly phases in this. It's great vocal, killer guitar solos thing. Then we have a remake of Fall of the Peacemakers, which is from Guts and Glory, of course. Different. This has got Phil on it and singing, of course, because Danny is not on it, and it's all right, but I'd still prefer the original. In fairness, there isn't really a bad track on this album. There's one or two that are a little bit weaker, but one thing with these albums, you don't skip the tracks, you just let it play. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 4, go to the 8th album. This was released in 1996. It's Devil's Canyon. By this time, Danny was forced to retire because of his ill health, and he was replaced by Phil McCormack, who completed the vocal tracks. So it's Phil McCormack, Bobby Ingram, Brian Bassett, John Galvin, Andy McKinney, Matt Crawford, additional musician. We've got backing vocals from Mickey Carla and Mickey Barker. It is the Mickey Barker that played with Macklemore, who does some additional percussion. So first track on here is called Down from the Mountain. Again, killer opening track and a killer vocal from Phil. Rolling Thunder, this was written by Danny. The drumming on this is great. It's a great track. And Phil does a great vocal. Then we get my favourite, Devil's Canyon. Epic. Some great guitar work on this. I reckon this is one of Phil's best vocals. It's terrific. Heartless Land comes next. Very good track. It's got a great bass line. It's got a great guitar solo in it. Pretty cool track. Never Say Never. Good little boogie track this is. 3.5 minutes of good boogie music. Tatanka, it comes next. Great drumming on this. I love that rolling sort of drum. Very atmospheric. My second favourite track on this album. Come Hell or High Water. One of those great rock tracks. Driving riffs with a little bit of piano on it. You just can't go wrong. The Look in Your Eyes, my least favourite on this. It's a little bit cheesy for me, but yeah, it's okay. Eat Your Heart Out. Great opening drums on this, and the guitar just takes over. The Journey, it's a long track, but it's got some great breaks in it, some great drumming. Then they do an acoustic version of Dreams You'll Never See, which is the Allman Brothers. The only band that's probably recorded the same song about 3 or 4 times. I like this because there's a little bit of strings on it as well. It's quite nice. I'd say this is my favourite album with Phil singing. It's just a great boogie album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay then, coming in at number 3, we have the 4th album, released in 1981, Take No Prisoners, and this was the last album that featured Jimmy Farrar, and the last that Banner Thomas played bass, and it was the last to feature Bruce Crump until The Deed Is Done. And in Respect in the Morning is a duo between Jimmy Farrar and Joyce Baby Jean Kennedy of Mother's Finest. And it's also notable that actress Katie Segal appears as a backup singer. So there you go. So the band is Jimmy Farrar vocals, Dave Hallbeck guitar and slide guitar, Steve Holland guitar, Dwayne Rowland on guitar and slide guitar, Banner Thomas on the bass, Bruce Crump on the drums. Additional musicians: Jay Winding, Paulino Da Costa on the congas, Tom Werman on percussion. Got the Tower of Power horn section on a couple of tracks. We've got Mindy Sterling, Laurie Bono and Katie Segal backing vocals. And of course Joyce Baby Jean Kennedy additional vocals on Respecting Me in the Morning. First track on here is called Bloody Reunion. Great opening track as ever. A great vocal from Jimmy. Probably one of his best. Just love the guitar on here. Then we get Respect Me in the Morning. I like this. It's a great duo. It's a solid track all the way through. Really like that track. Then we get a cover of a Little Richard song, and it's Long Tall Sally, but it's not a rock and roll version. This is more of a ballad, and does it work? It is really good. I like it. I like that version very much. Loss of Control, great track. It's just got some great drumming on it from Bruce. Solid guitar work. All Mine, my favourite track on here. I love how the drums from Bruce really gets you in. The riffs come in, it just hooks you, hook, line and sinker. Then we get Lady Luck. Love the guitar work in this. I just love the guitars in this band. They are just great. Doesn't matter who's playing them. The sound is just great. Power Play. Probably my least favourite track on here, but it's still a pretty decent track. Don't Mess Around. I love Banner's bass line on this. Some great slide guitar on this. And another great vocal from Jimmy. Don't Leave Me Lonely. Love the rawness on this. Plug In and Go stuff. A great track. Dead Giveaway. A great little rocker to end the album. Great tapping stuff. A really solid album from Molly Hatchet from top to bottom. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 2, we have the debut album from 1978, and it's just called Molly Hatchet. And so it's the original lineup of Danny Joe Brown on vocals, Dave Hallbeck guitar, Steve Holland guitar, Dwayne Rowland on the guitar, Banner Thomas bass, Bruce Crump drums, additional musicians Tom Werman percussion, Jay Winding on keyboards, and Tim Lindsay additional bass. So they've all been around. These additional people have always been sort of part of the Molly Hatchet team. So the first track is a classic, Bounty Hunter. Short, sharp, great sound in the 3 guitarists. Love that. Then we get Gator Country, which is an absolute killer. I love this track. Absolutely brilliant. Big Apple, another classic track from Molly Hatchet. Does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? The Creeper, got one of my favourite guitar solos on this. Absolutely amazing track. The Price You Pay, solid track, great vocal from Danny. Guess what we get then? Dreams You'll Never See from the Allman Brothers again. But of all the versions they've done, this is the best. Yeah, it's a great track anyway, but this is the one that really is the best. I'll Be Running, great bass line from Banner here. I really like this. Cheating Woman, probably my favourite song ever by Molly Hatchet. It's got one of the best solos, great vocals, terrific song. Trust Your Old Friend, a great track to end the album, nice boogie track. Great debut, another great band, all the tracks are solid from top to bottom. You can't go wrong with this one. If you're going to start listening to them, these where you start, these number 1 and 2. They are the best albums. And I'll give this one an RTO ranking of 8.4. So if you've been working this out, you should know that my number 1 is the second album from '79, Flirting with Disaster. I think it's probably everybody's favourite Molly Hatchet album, in all honesty. And for once I go with the flow. So it's the classic lineup with Danny, Dave, Steve, Dwayne, Banner and Bruce. But we've got some additionals on here. We've got Max Calder, some backing vocals, Tom Werman's there, and Jay Winding. First track, Whiskey Man. Catchy, classic Molly Hatchet. Then we get It's All Over Now. Valentino's done this, and so's the Rolling Stones, which we've already mentioned today in Rob's top 10, but it's a good cover. It's a great version of that song. I do like that song. One Man's Pleasure, guitar solo on this is killer. Absolutely top drawer stuff. Junkin City, I love this boogie sound that Molly Hatchet created as well. It's great when you've got 3 guitars. It really does add to it. It's a great vocal from Danny. I love this track. Boogie No More, great sounding on this. The drums of Bruce are brilliant. That bass line from Banner, killer track. Then we got one of my favourite tracks. It's the title track, Flirting with Disaster. Just a classic track from the band. I just love everything about this. Good rocking, very ZZ Top, but it's brilliant. Just good old boogie music. Then my favourite track on here is Gunsmoke. I love this. It's that piano that really adds to it. Almost perfect. Long Time, a classic for Molly Hatchet. The highlight of this, of course, is Danny's vocals, one of his best vocals with the band. And the last track, Let the Good Times Roll, just good old-fashioned boogie rock. What a track to end this great album. What can you say about this album? It's just a killer from the first track to the last track. It's great playing. I think it's probably one of Danny's best vocals performances in the band. It just lights up the room when you put this album on. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. So there we go. Now, is any of these Molly Hatchet great albums your favourite? And would you want to put it in the Battle Royale? Well, you've got till the 17th of September to decide. So if you want a bit of Molly Hatchet to represent in the Battle Royale, go to the video that I put up and put your entry in there. And that all starts on the 5th of October. So that's all for today. Been up early today, but got plenty to do, so we'll be back tomorrow. And first up tomorrow is Battle of the Debuts, and we're going to do a power metal month, and we're going to start off with a band from the UK called Threshold and a band from Italy. They're called Rhapsody of Fire, but they started out as Rhapsody, so that's pretty good. And tomorrow's pick and mix is we're doing mixing it up, so we're going to look at a producer, and tomorrow it's the great Tom Allen. And then don't forget, tomorrow night it's live stream, so plenty coming up. So have a great day everyone, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye for now.